Alrighty guys, welcome back to Star Wars Review. Today I'm reviewing the series premiere episode of Star Wars Ahsoka, which was titled Part 1 Master and Apprentice, which was written and directed by Dave Filoni and was released on August 22nd, 2023, which I enjoyed it. I did do a first thoughts video, basically kind of a review of the first two episodes, so I'm going to kind of repeat some thoughts there. But it's been a few days and I've also rewatched the episode, so I've, definitely thought on the episode a little more. But like I said, I enjoyed it. I wasn't blown away by it, and I did have a few bigger problems with the episode. The biggest is I just thought the dialogue was just a little stiff in some points, maybe leaning a little too into being like too stoic, I guess. So, I just wish it was just a little looser there, which, so far that's really my biggest issue, and it is definitely a bigger one. And, if I really didn't feel that way about it, I would have probably been singing a whole different tune about the episode, because, I really enjoyed pretty much just about everything else. The only other thing is I do think it took a little too much time reintroducing the characters and recapping some stuff from Rebels. But there were some moments where I felt like it worked well, in a story sense. I liked how on Lothal we see that it is the anniversary of, I guess, the Battle of Lothal, as it's referred to in the episode. So therefore the events of the Rebels series finale. So I like, how that played a part in the story and whatnot. There's a moment with Sabine where she watches a hologram message from Ezra, which, I like the emotional kind of weight of the scene, but it is kind of a lot more exposition dialogue from Ezra and whatnot. So that scene I was a little more half and half on. I like the more emotional weight for Sabine, kind of seeing where her head's at this point in time and whatnot. But it was also kind of more of a scene recapping and reintroducing some stuff from Star Wars Rebels. But other than that, I really enjoyed the episode. One thing I really enjoyed was some little things that kind of give the classic Star Wars feel. Like there's an opening crawl, and then, starting in space. I enjoyed all that. They use a bunch of transitional wipes, which I really enjoyed. I do quite enjoy those. In fact, on this video, there's probably some. Also, one thing I noticed was there's several scenes which kind of call back to the Phantom Menace. Definitely with Baylan and Shin, which was definitely interesting. So there's a lot of little things which kind of gave the classic Star Wars feel. The score from Kevin Kiner was great. I really loved every second of it. Definitely Sabine's theme, hearing that again and how it's kind of used in different ways also. On a visual side of thing, I thought it was solid. It's not as good as Andor or the movies, but I thought it was better than most of the other Disney Plus Star Wars series. I'd say more closer to Mando season 1 and 2, because there are some scenes which, very obvious. The backdrop is CGI or whatever, but there wasn't any scene was like what really stood out to me as being really bad. But it's not as good looking as Andor, but which I wish would be the case, but it is what it is. But I enjoyed all the setup for what the actual story is going to be of them finding Ezra and Thrawn, seemingly in a completely different galaxy. So really the thing I was the biggest on liking was the story so far. I was really into that, which then will continue into the second episode. But this is just a review of the first one, so I'm going to kind of dive into it more in depth. Like I said, it starts with an opening crawl, but the text is red and doesn't have the normal, Star Wars theme and logo and all that. So it is an opening crawl, but a little bit different. But, it talks about Ahsoka, finding Thrawn, also Morgan Elsbeth being captured by Ahsoka, and then being transferred in a New Republic ship which it opens on that New Republic ship. We see the captain, I think his name was Hale, but we see this other ship come out of hyperspace, which they were expecting a Home 1, but it's just a normal Jedi shuttle, which are asking to dock, saying that they are Jedi, which Hale doesn't believe them, but wants to call their bluff, so he lets them dock, and then we see him, go and introduce himself, which the Jedi are Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, which, obviously we know they're villainous characters, which so far I enjoyed them in that role. We'll get more into them in the second episode, as I just thought there's more to them in that one, definitely Baylan. But we see Hale kind of call them out, for not being actually Jedi, but Baylan does reveal that they are Force users, and then gets Shin to kill all of them, but he tells Hale right before killing him that he is right and that they aren't Jedi, and then he kills them. But we then see them go through the ship. We see Shin go for the bridge, where Baylan then goes for the cell area to free Morgan Elsbeth, which he does, and we learn that they're all working together for Thrawn. But Morgan says that Ahsoka is on the trail, and she revealed info to Ahsoka, which then cuts over to Ahsoka at this old temple, which we learn later in the episode that it was a Night Sister temple, and the planet was called Arcana. But we see Ahsoka kind of cutting her way, down into the temple, where she finds this ancient room, I guess, where she then does some Indiana Jones treasure hunting puzzles, where she moves these pillars that kind of line up with this iconography on the wall, which then makes another pillar come up, which has this star map in it, which is a ball thingy, which I liked all this as a Indiana Jones fan. I do like a treasure MacGuffin and whatnot, and a treasure hunting puzzle scene. I do think it maybe went a little long, but that was whatever. But she then tries to call up Huyang, but the signal is jammed, so she jumps back up and gets confronted by some HK assassin droids. So she takes them out, but then they start to self-destruct. So Ahsoka runs away, calling Huyang again, who now answers and brings the ship down, and they get away. Which this scene I thought was a little weak visually. You could very much tell that the background was CG. Really, out of any of the scenes, is probably the worst looking visually. But I like the moment afterwards, once they're getting away, and we see Ahsoka and Huyang kind of talking with each other. We kind of get a little bit of Ahsoka's snippiness, I guess, which I enjoyed. Hopefully we kind of see her regain that throughout the series, but she reveals the star map to him, but they then get called up by Home 1 about the attack we saw earlier. So Ahsoka heads there, and she meets with Hera again, which this episode we don't get as much of a Hera. We do get her more in the second episode, so I'll talk about her more in my review for that episode. But Hera shows Ahsoka the footage of the attack, which Ahsoka doesn't recognize Baylan or Shin, but she tells Huyang to scan the lightsabers to see if they could find out anything on them, via their lightsabers, if Huyang knows the lightsabers or not. But Ahsoka then shows Hera the star map, which at first she doesn't know what it is, but Ahsoka reveals that it can lead them to Thrawn, which, Hera thinks Thrawn is dead, but Ahsoka tells her that she's heard whispers of his return, which makes Hera realize that if Thrawn is alive, that must mean Ezra is too, which Ahsoka says she hopes so, which I enjoyed the moment of Hera kind of realizing that. But Ahsoka, then says that the star map is locked and they don't know how to open it yet, which Hera tells her that they both know who can, help her with this, but Ahsoka doesn't think that they will, which, Hera tells her that they'll do it for Ezra, which, they're obviously referring to Sabine, which it then cuts over to Lothal, where we see Governor Ryder Azadi giving a speech about the Battle of Lothal, which he's once again played by Clancy Brown, which I loved seeing him, in this role again, as I love Clancy Brown, and, honestly, he's maybe one of my favorite performances and characters from this episode, but he gives a speech about, the Battle of Lothal and whatnot, and then introduces Sabine, who isn't there, So he gets Senator Jaikel to give a speech instead, which we saw Jaikel in Rebels. In the first season, we see him as a Imperial cadet, which Ezra helps him escape, but then later in season 4, helping out Ryder and the Ghost crew and whatnot on Lothal. And then for some weird reason, he just isn't in the finale episode, which is weird, but he's back now. But we then see Ryder call security to look for Sabine, which we then see her riding her speeder down the highway thingy on Lothal, listening to some music, which was very punk rock but Star Wars, so I enjoyed that. But she gets found by some New Republic pilots or whatever who are flying E-Wings, who try to get her to stop, but she doesn't, and she pulls off a crazy move to get under the one E-Wing. So being impressed by it, they let her off. But she then goes to the old comm tower, which at the start of Star Wars Rebels, we saw Ezra, live there, which it seems like she is living there now too. But she goes in and she feeds her Loth-cat, which I like the scene. How, one thing I liked was the scoop. She used this like any scoop you'd use in real life for your pets, so I thought that was funny. But we see her looking at her Mandalorian armor, but then she grabs a little container and pulls out a hologram message from Ezra out of it, and she listens to it, which it pretty much kind of recaps some of the events of the series finale, but also Ezra's relationship with Sabine, which in the message he tells Sabine that she's like a sister to him and to continue to fight, which, like I said, I enjoyed the moment, but it is kind of a little more recapping some stuff there. But we then see the bad guys on Arcana, which the Inquisitor Marok is there now. He just kind of just shows up, which I found funny. But they find everything in ruins, but Elsbeth believes that Ahsoka found the map, which we do learn that she is indeed a Night Sister. But she then sends Shin to Lothal, which afterwards Baylan tells Shin that what she's truly looking for is Sabine Wren, which then cuts back over to Sabine, who we see sleeping, having a nightmare about Ezra. But then she gets a ship alert thingy on the computer thingy, which wakes her up, and she walks outside and sees some X-Wings and Ahsoka's T6 shuttle flying by. So she heads into the city, into the mural area where Ahsoka is with Ryder, which Ryder, asks her why she didn't show up for the ceremony, which, she lies, telling him that it slipped her mind. But, he tells her that, she should have been there and that she was missed and that, everyone was there. But he then whispers to her that she's going to want to hear what Ahsoka has to say, which Ahsoka then shows her the star map, saying that it's a way to find Ezra. So they go into Ahsoka's shuttle to talk more about it, which, Ahsoka shows Sabine a scan of the temple, asking her if she can kind of put anything together. But what Sabine wants to talk about more is, how Ahsoka's doing in their relationship as master and apprentice, as Ahsoka was training Sabine to be a Jedi, which is definitely interesting. Did you kind of dive into it a little more in the second episode? But I'm definitely interested to see throughout the rest of the series kind of more about that relationship and whatnot. Mainly because, Sabine isn't force sensitive, and also in Rebels, they don't really interact with each other too much, so I'm definitely interested to dive more into that. But it obviously doesn't seem like they really worked out as master and apprentice, but, they kind of talk about, how it didn't work out and whatnot. But Huyang comes out with an update for Ahsoka, which Ahsoka tries to get him to go away, but Sabine says it's okay, and then asks if she can take the map and scan somewhere else to think more clearly, which Ahsoka tells her, not to, because, this isn't just a map to Ezra, but also Thrawn, and, she wants to prevent another war, which Sabine says that she knows that. But Ahsoka then heads into the other room with Huyang, who has an update on the lightsabers, which I like the scene, kind of seeing Huyang's knowledge about lightsabers kind of come into a bigger plot point and whatnot, which, obviously Shin's lightsaber he doesn't know anything about, but he does recognize Balin's lightsaber as the lightsaber which belonged to Balin. And so they figure out that Balin is a former Jedi and that he's now has a apprentice. So, they both come to the conclusion that they now have a master and apprentice coming after them, which Ahsoka then goes out to tell Sabine about it, but Sabine has taken the map and scan and head back to her place. But along the way, we see a probe droid watching her, who then returns to Shin, which the scene was similar to the one from The Phantom Menace with Maul and the probe droid on Tatooine. But Sabine returns to her place and starts to kind of figure it out. But we then see Ahsoka speaking with Hera about Sabine and mentoring someone, and also how Sabine really hasn't changed that much. But Anakin ends up getting brought up, because Hera asks about Ahsoka's master, which, we see Ahsoka kind of look back on it and how she left him during the Clone Wars and the consequences that brought about that, not just to her, but the galaxy as a whole, because, she probably blames herself somewhat for Anakin's fall to the dark side, probably thinking about maybe if she stayed with him and whatnot, and maybe he wouldn't have turned, which I enjoyed that scene. But we then see Sabine crack the code to the star map and open it, which reveals the galaxy and a path to a completely different galaxy. And so she goes outside with some binoculars, I guess, to find the stars or planets or something on the map. I'm not fully sure, but she then gets attacked by some HK assassin droids, which she's able to take the one out, but the other one takes the map and destroys everything else. And so Sabine goes and grabs Ezra's lightsaber, and goes after droid, but she does call up Huyang asking for backup, which we see Huyang warn Ahsoka, and so then they head for the comm tower. But Sabine then goes outside where she runs into Shin, and so they have a lightsaber duel, which I really enjoyed this lightsaber duel, seeing Sabine, who isn't force sensitive and, is out of practice with a lightsaber, fight someone, who is force sensitive and obviously has been practicing, but not extremely experienced. So I like that duel there. But Ahsoka is getting close, so Shin ends the fight by stabbing Sabine in the side of her stomach and then flees, which the episode ends with Sabine falling to the ground while Ahsoka finally gets there. And, like I said, that's where it ends. Also, I should mention the credits. One, there was a memorial to, for Rafe Stevenson, who played Balin Skull, who passed away before the series aired a few months ago. So that was nice. But then the credits were also nice. More of a, I don't know what to call it, stylized, animated Star Wars credits. As most of the time, it's just the blue text with the stars in the background. Or, with Mando, it's like the brownish text with concept art. And Andor was just white text with black background. So I liked having a more stylized credits, but it's like a galaxy map and a pathway from all the planets then to the new galaxy. So I liked having something different there, but also kind of like how it teased some things about the series and whatnot. But the best thing was the music from Kevin Kiner. We hear Ahsoka's theme, then Sabine's theme, and then some other ones. So I really enjoyed that. Thought the credits were very nice. But, yeah, all in all, like I said, I enjoyed the episode. Had some bigger issues with the dialogue being a little too stiff, and also maybe a little too much recapping and exposition dialogue going on. But other than that, I pretty much liked everything else about the episode. So, honestly, if I didn't have those major issues with it, I would have really loved this episode. But it did take away just too much from the episode. Obviously, the recapping, the second episode is obviously already out, and I already felt that kind of went away. The dialogue, still kind of an issue, but hopefully throughout the series that kind of loosens up a little bit as the characters progress. But, as of right now, this one was a little too stiff for me, but, yeah. Anyways, my grade, I'm going to give it a B. So yeah, but next I'll be reviewing episode 2, so you check that out, and then episode 3 when that airs, so you check that out too. But in the meantime, check out my first thoughts video that I did all my other Ahsoka videos, my Rebels reviews, and everything else I do. But I've been Star Wars Review, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
I started hearing whispers about Thrawn's return as heir to the Empire. We have to prepare for the worst.